I can empathize with you on that one. And do you ever feel like no one gets you? Like everything you want turns to an issue. Like no one ever been through what you've been through. Believe me, I have felt the way that you do. But all of these moments turn to reasons we will never quit. Like a razor, we keep digging even deeper. You're like elevators, we are falling, but we'll never sink. Like a freight train, I am ready to deliver. Ever gonna lead you back home. Like everywhere you turn, you take the long road, and the boat that you are steering is a lost cause. But all of these moments turn to reasons we will never quit. Like a razor, we keep digging even deeper. Like elevators, we are falling, but we'll never sink. Like a freight train, I am ready to deliver. I'm on my knees now. For 23 years I've been drowning. I'm crying, please now. Somebody please see my calling.
I'm a freak, I'm an outcast, I'm a shadow. I stand with the lost souls, looking for a hustle. Got a pulse on the streets, I'm the one you won't look in the eye, no. Yeah, well, I could see what's headed for you down that road. And soon it's coming to take everything you know. When the monster crawls out of the sea, you're gonna need somebody like me. When your brother's got blood in the streets, you better call somebody like me. I was made in the shadows, where the light ain't allowed to go. When the line gets a little blurry, you're gonna need somebody like me. Through the smoke, through the fog, through the boneyards. When your white knight's in his grave, I'm your last call. Cause you're about to walk through places they don't know you. If they don't know you, it ain't safe, y'all. Yeah, well, I can see what's headed for you down that road. And soon it's coming to take everything you know. Yeah. When that monster crawls out of the sea, you're gonna need somebody like me. When your brother's got blood in the streets, you better call somebody like me. I was made in the shadows, where the light ain't allowed to go. When the light 'cause you want somebody like me. When the line gets a little blurry, gonna need somebody like me. When the monster grows out of the sea, you're gonna need somebody like me. When your brother's got blood in the streets, you better call somebody like me. I was made in the shadows, where the light ain't allowed to go. When the line gets a little blurry, we're gonna need somebody like me. Better call somebody like me, 'cause you want somebody like me. When the lines get a little blurry, we're gonna need somebody like me.
I'm focused. I've been watching for the omens. I've been listening to everything you said. It's been running through my head, locked and loaded. I got the feeling that you know it. Yeah, I've only just begun. I won't stop until it's done, till you're broken. So welcome to the fire. I'm the one with the lighter. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. Welcome to the fire. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. I've been waiting for this moment, the final battle of the chosen. See, I'm never gonna quit, got my legacy set in motion. So welcome to the fire. I'm the one with the lighter. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. Welcome to the fire. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. Welcome to the fire. Welcome to the fire. 'Cause the bigger they are, the harder they fall. You build your fortress and I'll climb your walls. You got your armor, but I see your flaws. So welcome to the fire. I'm the one with the lighter. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. Welcome to the fire. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. Bigger they are, harder they fall.
Welcome everyone. Happy Saturday. Happy Star Wars Day. Hope everyone's having a great Saturday and weekend. Also, I gotta take this out. Because I can't see in it.
That explains your aim, Adam.
Oh, yes. Yes, it does. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. It is Star Wars Day.
Welcome,
Yeah.
and
Matthew,
may the 4th be with
May
you.
the 4th be with you. Matthew, how are you, sir?
I'm doing really well. I was planning on doing something similarly Star Wars themed and silly with the lightsaber that I got last year. And since I have real swords that I actually use, I let the battery die on my lightsaber, and it's not charged again. So I guess we'll do better next year.
Excellent. That's okay. That's all right. Well, welcome. For all of those, not everyone may know who you are in this great world of, I don't know why they wouldn't, but do you want to maybe take a second and just share with folks who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Matthew. I am a program manager on the Fabric customer advisory team at Microsoft. So Adam and I constantly calling Alex by his name. So now I've got to call Adam by Alex's name.
Yes.
But Adam and I work on the same team, although we do very different things. For the most part, my team and my work these days really revolves around helping the broader Fabric team better learn from customers. I help people understand problems and never need to solve problems on my own for my day job, which is definitely the sweet spot for me. And before I joined the Power BI team back in 2018, I'd worked on SQL Server integration services, master data services, data quality services, and Azure data catalog. So a bunch of data governance and information management related products and services. Before I joined Microsoft in 2008, I was a data warehousing and ETL consultant. I'd been a developer, data architect, trainer, mentor, and so on. Been doing this for a while. Delighted to be here.
Excellent. And we're happy that you are here. So,
and for Thomas's question, I hated DTS. Data transformation services in SQL pre-2005. It was a simple tool for solving simple problems, and I was not interested in solving simple problems. Absolutely loved integration services, which was a bewilderingly complex tool for solving moderate problems.
Yeah. And wow, all right. There was a couple of things in the chat. Before I get to that, if you are new to the live stream or new to GuyaNaCube in general, put hashtag new in the chat. We always love seeing the new faces and want to say hi. Also, in honor of Matthew, I am wearing, Crystal made this shirt specifically for Matthew. So it's got the lightsabers on the front and on the back. I will try, but I am tethered. So I don't know if this will work. Hang on. Let's see.
I am so jealous.
All right. Okay. So thank you, Crystal, for making that shirt.
I wear a large these days, Crystal. Just throwing that one out there.
We'll get you one. All right. Stina in Texas, member for 35 months, said Happy Star Wars Day. Happy Star Wars Day to you. James gifting 5 memberships to folks. Thank you so much. So Hachi, Nun, Keith, Iwa, and Tron were all gifted memberships by James. Thank you so much. Welcome to the party. And then Mark, member for 48 months. Thank you, Mark. You've been around for a long time. Time flies when you're having fun. And then Alex, it's not about to sell. Member for 50 months. Jeez. 50 is a magic number. When will we see Chatmaster C on the road again? I don't know. So we were talking about the potential upcoming road show in Australia, New Zealand next year. So we're focusing on that, and we'll see if we can sneak in some other things. So we'll see. Yeah. All right. So also shout out to the members of GuyaNaCube. You help us do what we do here on the channel. So thank you so much for that. You're seeing all like the green kind of highlights. Those are all members just coming in with things like Chewy just came in, member for 47 months, getting closer to the big 5 as well. Amazing. And then if you see folks either with a green name or the GuyaNaCube icon next to their name, those are members of GuyaNaCube. Thank you so much. If you want to learn more about it, check out the link on the screen or hit the join button down below to learn more. No commitment required, but thank you for checking it out, as always. And then let's see if we have any new folks here. We do. When did I start it? Let's go. So I think Ahmed is new. Akshay is new. A couple of not new folks. I see you. I see you. Sean is new. Welcome. Gildardo said large here as well. That's funny. Keith Smith, new due not being here for a while. Finally had a Saturday off. Awesome. Well, glad you made it. And thank you everyone who is new to the live stream. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, Sean, I saw yours before. So welcome. Excellent. All right. We have some rules. Matthew, I hear we have some rules. Would you like to share?
I think that Yoda would like to share the rules today. So the first rule, according to Yoda, is Q, : I can't do this with a straight face. So let's try this one more time.
All right.
Q, : these are the ways to the answer side. Prefix your question, you must. All right, so there's the first one.
All right.
I
love it.
So Yoda's rule number 2, repeating questions. A Jedi does not these things. And then, of course, the third rule is for the members that need to wait until the top of the hour to put their questions in, where Yoda says, patience you must have, my young Padawans. Those are the rules. You're welcome.
There we go. Excellent. All right. So please abide by those rules. Chatmaster C is standing by. She will put you in a timeout if you break the rules. If you break the second rule, and then other moderators as well are there. All right. Let's get into the questions, I guess. Let's do it. Data is king. First up. So data is king. I have a script that is able to read a text file on my local PC that has M syntax in it, which the script loads it into Power Query. That's pretty fancy. I would like for it to read the text file from SharePoint instead.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, you would.
Yeah.
All right. Next question.
So
Data is King actually had put into chat later on while the crowd was assembling, mentioning that what he's actually looking for is the replacement for text.binary or binary.text, like whatever the file system M function that he's using is. So do you know what the SharePoint equivalent of reading a text file is?
And the other thing you could do as well is like go put the text file in a SharePoint document library and then just go get that file and look at what that syntax is and then replace it accordingly. SharePoint.contents, Alex is saying use that instead. So that would be that'd probably be the connector piece of it. So, and then you'll have to apply the relevant credentials to go along with it.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, and it looks like both Alex and Jason are putting comments in there.
Yeah.
And I would certainly defer to either one of them for M-specific insights.
And I would definitely defer to Jason for SharePoint things. So, excellent. All right. Carlos. Whoops, not that one. Hang on. So I'm extracting Power BI logs using PySpark in Fabric. I can't run the notebook or as the service app like I'm able to do with PowerShell on-prem. Can you suggest some PySpark code to do this? And so he's already running the code. And so the question there is really about how do I use a service account to do that? The challenge is I don't know that that's supported. In terms of how you would actually apply that credential, because the notebook is just running in the context of you, and that wasn't the intended purpose of necessarily the notebook in there. So I'm not saying it's necessarily can't be done. But Matthew also dropped a blog post in the chat, so check that out. using Senpai to call REST APIs, that might be a way to do it. Although I don't think through Senpai that you can actually apply different credentials as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was that the service
Yeah.
the service principle. Like I realize now as I'm reading it that it does say service app. I had missed that in my recommendation. So,
Yeah.
benefit of Senpai is that it uses the current user's authentication and just makes it really easy to do Fabric-based things once you're running a notebook in Fabric. And David has dropped into chat. Like there are libraries for using or for authentication using a service principle. So
I was gonna, and I think I did a video on this a while back. So I know from a PowerShell perspective, you can call like the Azure AD libraries or the Entra libraries now, and you can actually specify the service account and then call it on that behalf. I don't know what the equivalent is from a Python perspective, and I don't know if that would actually how that would work in the context of the notebook. So you'd have to try that. So, and I haven't seen examples from a notebook perspective to know if that's something that can be done. But from a code perspective, theoretically, it should work. It's just a question of whether that identity is going to mess around with something at that point. So definitely, yeah, an MFA is going to be a problem there. But the service account gets you around the MFA part. And that's one of the big reasons for using the service account is you don't necessarily have the MFA piece of it. So, yep. So good hunting with that. All right, so the next one so Bushan's got a question and Carlos had a second question that's related to this. So I'm gonna read Bushan's first and then I'll pull up Carlos's other question that's related for context here. So Bushan said, can you give some light on migrating Power BI premium capacities to Fabric capacities? What are limitations or new features? How does RLS or how will RLS shift to Fabric capacities? And then Carlos's other question, which adds a little more a specific piece of this. I looked into workspace identities, but the feature is disabled on my P1. I thought P1 and F64 are equivalents. Am I missing something? And so, Matthew, I thought you had a very good response of thoughts on the difference between the P1 and the F64. I don't know if you want to share that.
Yeah. So at a very high level, the P1 from a Power BI premium SKU and a F64 from a Fabric SKU are generally equivalent, but this is about the resources that are available. But there are definitely some things that you can do in a Fabric SKU that you can't do in a Power BI premium SKU, like F versus P. That really comes down to the underlying implementation of the different capacities. A Fabric SKU, like the F SKUs, run as Azure resources that provide the underlying infrastructure necessary to support workspace identities. And I think there are one or two other very specific sets of functionality that are specific to the Fabric capacities. So you get the same amount of compute, same amount of resources, but there are a small ones of features that are only available in Fabric, and Carlos has run into one of them.
Yep.
But if we jump back to the other question, waiting for that to show up.
There you go.
Bushan, like RLS works in Fabric capacities just like it does in Power BI capacities.
Yep.
For the most part, like it's simply a matter of having your workspace backed by an F SKU rather than a P SKU. Like I haven't seen anything specific about migrating because it's a lightweight configuration shift.
Yeah. And Fernando, I will say I guess it depends on what's there and what's not, but Carlos did call out a specific item. In terms of migrating though, I will call out where you're gonna run into some challenges is if your capacities are in different data regions. That's a big one where you could get blocked because of that, especially from a OneLake perspective, where it's not gonna be able to move the workspace. And so be cognizant of that in terms of where your P SKU is and then where you're putting your F SKU from a region perspective. If they're in the same region, it should go pretty smoothly. So, but that's a big thing that I know of, and I've heard a couple comments on that already.
Yeah. And it's also worth highlighting, sort of to close out the PSKU FSKU conversation, as Alex has dropped into chat, we have announced the retirement of PSKUs. So there's a pretty lengthy document out there talking about what to expect and when. The goal is that in the fullness of time, everybody's going to be on the Fabric capacities so that this type of what do I get where question goes away. So if you currently have PSKUs and you're wondering how this planned retirement is going to affect you, check out the link that Alex has shared. Definitely check it out.
Yes. Excellent. All right. Moving on. So Akash has a question. And I'm going to preface this with, I don't know, and I have a follow-up to do because I'm seeing the same thing on my capacity. So what is the meaning of each bar in the interactive background rejection under throttling tab in capacity app, metrics app? We see a few bars up to 5%, but no overages. How do you interpret this percentage? So the how do you interpret, that's where I'm going to say I don't know, but let's head over to my machine and I'll show you what I'm seeing. So here we go. All right. So this is for my capacity. Patrick's having a glorious time on this capacity and doing things, especially with Custo. So he's having a lot of fun. I think he left something on and didn't turn it off, as one does. And you'll see here, like around April 24th, there was some usage there, and the red is interactive. So this means it's pretty much Power BI reports. Someone's using a Power BI report, and then the blue is background operation. But you can also see I'm not hitting the 100%. And so that's good. This is a P1 capacity. And so if I go to the throttling tab, you'll see if I'm on interactive delay, you'll see bars there as well. I'm getting interactive delays and it's on the 24th as well. And I'm like, why? I don't know. Like the total capacity usage around that time was like 65%, and it's like, I'm getting delays. And if I go to rejections, interactive rejections, it's kind of hard to see here, but you'll see I'm getting rejections as well. And I'm like, why? I have no idea. So I'm getting them. And so effectively what this means is like the rejection means like an interactive request was actually denied, like it was rejected. And then on the delays, it was basically throttling that kicked in. The only thing I can guess, and so it made it run slower. So the only thing I can assume is some of the smoothing and the smoothing operations that they put into the capacity are contributing to this. But it doesn't make sense to me. And so I'm going to take this specific example that I have and go back to the team and ask them what's up. And maybe there's an improvement for the app. Maybe there's something with their calculation for the report itself that's showing something odd that shouldn't be there. That's a possibility. So we'll go back and get an answer. From a documentation though, I will point you to the doc that talks about the metrics app itself and explains the values and what the values mean. But why I'm getting that, I don't know. Because I'm not, even if I go to the point in time drill down, I didn't cap out, and it's not showing any throttling percentage in the point in time. So that's what's making me think that maybe the calculation for that visual is maybe off. And that's not actually affecting you in from a production perspective. So I'm going to follow up though. So good question.
I was just going to go with the interactive rejections is because you're socially awkward and are missing the subtle cues that others are picking up on, but I might be projecting there.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Let's see here. Ollie has a question here. What is the alternative for object level security implementation in semantic model, as it's not natively supported in Fabric as far as I know? I'm aware of data warehousing granular level access. You can do object level security in a semantic model. So
is it supported in direct lake mode today? So is that an import only thing, or because a lot of people conflate direct query with Fabric, even though it's not that simple.
So I do know that RLS is supported on direct lake.
Yes.
So what because RLS is supported, I will say that I'm assuming object level security is, but I don't know that for a fact. So yeah, and Alex is saying that it should also work. Yeah, because I knew I know that RLS specifically is supported. I've had that conversation many times. So to Alex's point, like what are you seeing? Like, did you try it? Is it not working? We do have documentation out there on how to implement object level security. You'll want to look for it from an analysis services perspective. It applies also to semantic models. And then Alex has the doc. Does the doc actually call out object level?
It does. While you were talking,
Excellent.
I was searching. Direct Lake also supports row level security and object level security, so users only see the data they have permission to see. So,
There you go.
so Ali, if there's something that you're looking for and aren't seeing, it might be worthwhile. There you go.
Yep. There it is. I always love when my assumptions are correct. But always verify. Don't just go with the assumption. Always verify. So, but that's the beautiful thing is try it. Did it work? Did you get an error? Like what happened? All right. All right.
Got a super chat.
Yeah, so good luck with that on the object level security. We do have a super chat from Kyra. So super chats always take priority. They will, if you have a burning question, you can use a super chat to get ahead, regardless of what point in the stream. So Kyra says, "Is OneLake storage required to use Fabric data warehouse on a P SKU?" Interesting.
So I'm glad that you said data warehouse because I'd read that as to use Fabric data when on a PSQ.
Oh.
So I was going to say no, like you can use all the things and
Yeah.
but I think like the answer is yes.
Yes.
The Lakehouse and warehouse experiences in Fabric store their data in Delta format in the underlying OneLake. You can use shortcuts for some or all of that data, but you're going to have the best experience if it's actually in OneLake in the optimized Delta format.
Yep. So now if the question was data when, that's a different question.
It's a bigger question. Yeah.
So like if you're doing a regular import model, no, you don't necessarily need OneLake storage unless you enable on the import model to dump the tables into OneLake. Then you need OneLake storage for that.
Yeah.
But outside of that,
Kira has they've
warehouse.
jumped in saying warehouse. Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. So for warehouse, it's going to rely on the OneLake storage.
Yeah, and the super chat gives you many fewer characters, if I understand correctly. So they're probably.
It should have given more than that, I would think. Well, I don't know. Maybe that could be for the shorthand. Either way, I read it correctly.
It's efficient
so
compressed
it worked.
storage.
It worked.
You did indeed.
It worked. Another assumption that was correct. Just going to call that out. All right. All right. Mr. Anonymous. This makes me think of Mr. Robot. Guys, I know a little about data modeling like fact table, dimension, star schema, but I wish to learn data modeling in detail. I feel like this is a troll. Could you please suggest me a book resource to learn? All right. Matthew's going to grab something, and I have a different book. So excellent. We have two different books. So Matthew's got the Microsoft Data Warehouse Toolkit.
Yeah, for show and tell today, I've brought the classic Ralph Kimball book, or at least the Microsoft version of this, that goes into much more than just star schema and dimensional modeling, but this is the one that I had on my shelf. If you search for Ralph Kimball data model or Ralph Kimball star schema, Ralph Kimball dimensional modeling or similar things, that's for the old folks, that's how we got started. Great place to start today.
I'm not old, Matthew. I'm mature.
You're 10 years younger than I am, Adam. So just throwing that one out there.
Yeah. So that's one book, and I can feel through the force. I feel Donald Parrish is elating with joy. because we mentioned Kimball. The other book that I will call out is The Complete Reference for Star Schema by Christopher Adamson. So this goes through star schemas and dimensional modeling as well. So different type of things. So those are both great books to go dive more. And the other thing I'll call out from a star schema perspective, that is not a Power BI or Fabric specific thing. That is an industry concept for data modeling. So it applies to a lot of things. So it's not just Power BI. It's just that Power BI was built around the concept of a star schema. And so that's why it performs best.
Can you pull up and highlight David Cousins' Kimball Run comment as well?
Yeah, let me grab it. Where was it?
It's 5 or 6 comments ago.
Yeah, where is it?
Matthew can do the Kimball Run in 5 parsecs.
There you go. Oh, look at that.
So it's because it's a wretched hive of facts and dimensionality. Ooh.
So are we going to get into the whole parsecs debate? So
nope.
All right. Cool. Good question. I like it. All right. Darren. Oh, wait. I need to look. Okay. We're good on the time. Darren. I have some small ad hoc projects for 4 different clients. I likey the Lakey. Okay.
He likes One Lake in Fabric. He's a fan of One Lake.
Yes. Or lakes in general. So maybe he's a fisherman. I don't know. Would you advise against putting them in the same one lake? Ooh, well, there's only one lake for a tenant. So
yeah.
Now the question could be about the workspace, right? So go for it, man.
Like I don't think that it's about the workspace, at least the way that I'm reading it. And Darren will keep us honest in chat. But a lot of this comes down to like who owns the data, what's your relationship with the client, and what's the larger life cycle of this data that you're doing in these ad hoc projects. When we think about One Lake from an architectural and conceptual perspective, it's owned by the tenant. So every Fabric/Microsoft 365 tenant can have exactly one Lake. And although it's possible to share the data with other organizations, like this gets more complex when you're sharing outside of the tenant, like more things to take into consideration. So like who actually owns the data? What is the data? You're creating it because presumably you're a BI consultant or analytics consultant solving problems for a customer. When the project ends, what are you giving them? Like, what does the contract say? How are you going to hand it off? Who's going to own it in the long term? What are the expectations for their access to it once the project is done? Like this to me feels like the root of this question. And if each of these 4 different clients has their own Fabric tenant and their own One Lake, it seems reasonable to me. Again, I'm projecting my decades-old consulting experience onto your today, but it seems reasonable that each one of them is going to have their own One Lake, and ideally the data is going to land there so that they can take advantage of both the data and the functionality that you build on top of it. If there's a different type of relationship, the answer is going to be different. Like one person accessing, so Darren has put, you've highlighted that there. So small data lifecycle, updated once a month at most. There's usually just one person accessing from the client. They own the data. I do the work. Probably either approach would be fine in a situation like this. It's really like it probably comes down to the licensing and the trade-offs of do you want to do like the upfront work to ensure that they have their own tenant and like have a place to put it, or the longer term work maintaining the appropriate security in your tenant to give them the access that they need, but only the access that they need. So probably not a single right answer there.
So what you're saying is it depends.
Yeah. Oh, and I love I love that comment from Alex as well. So Alex is just singing Matthew's love language today. So
yeah, he actually had 2. The first one he had when you first started, he said, I'd follow existing embedded processes and separate projects clients by workspaces. I agree with that. And then the second comment he had was like, you understand the requirements the best. I think our view may be in the success you will eventually have and diverging needs. Unwinding the solution could be difficult in the end.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. So,
And
all right.
before we switch over to member chat, there was a great question that came in from, and I'm going to mangle your name, so please forgive me, from Raghavendra Naik. So it was right at 11 o'clock New York time. So top of the hour came in.
Yep.
If we could close on that one, I'd love to bump that to the top.
I'll get that. Before I do, I just want to highlight a super chat that Donald threw in, which was just for the Kimballs. Don't forget about, I think he corrected himself and said Margie Ross as one of the co-authors. So Matthew's going to verify.
I've got Joy Mundy and Warren Thornthwaite on mine, but yes, Kimball did a lot of the seminal work, but did have a lot of authors, co-authors, depending on the specific book and the specific edition that you're looking at. So good to give that credit where it's due.
And thank you, Donald, for the super chat. All right, so here's the question, Matthew. I have experience in Power BI from model development to report development. What it takes to get shifted to Microsoft Fabric? Please shed some light.
Awesome. So like you're already a Fabric expert if you're a Power BI expert. Like that's the controversial statement I'm going to throw out there. The concepts that you like, if you're doing end-to-end development in Power BI, you take for granted concepts around Power Query, about semantic modeling, about deploying to the service, about workspaces, about security, and all of these things that constrain and enable the solutions that you're building in Power BI. Think about Fabric as the evolution and expansion of what you can do in the Power BI service. Like it's same web service, now Fabric branded or Fabric scoped, where you can now do additional things. So for those core Power BI semantic modeling, we've got the concept of one lake and direct lake mode. It's like import, but a little different. And for getting the data into one lake or processing the data, where in the past, like if you think about Power Query and its declarative mode of data transformation and data ingestion, there's some things that that Power Query in Power BI Desktop or Data Flows was solid at, but other things that it just did not do particularly well. And with only Power BI as your tool set, sometimes you would need to go outside of Power BI to do things in SQL, to do things in like some scripting or other environment outside of Power BI. But with Fabric, as you're building your next solution and your next solution and your next solution, you can explore and take advantage of notebooks, whether it be Python or SQL or other. You can take advantage of pipelines for orchestration and control flow. You can take advantage of the ability to land data into one lake and then use SQL or Python or whatever combination of languages you need to manipulate that data in a way that Power BI just didn't enable. And it's in a lot of ways, Power BI is a tool belt that you already wear comfortably with a smaller number of tools on the belt. Fabric is adding more and more powerful tools to that same belt. So that's my high-level way of thinking.
I love it. And Alex dropped a link in there to some of the work he put together for the Day After Dashboard in a Day workshop that he presents in various places. So definitely go check that out. But yeah, Matthew, your microphone, it's done it twice where it kind of gets muffled and then it corrects itself. So I wouldn't
only use this microphone on these streams because no one but Adam cares this much about my audio.
Yes. All right. Cool. So thank you for that, Matthew. We are now going to member-only chat, where members and moderators can participate in the chat. Everyone else can still watch, but will not be able to participate in the active chat. There were still some questions in the queue we didn't get to, so apologies for that. If we didn't get to your question, either come back next time and ask, or super chats always take priority. So if you did have a burning question and you wanted to get it answered, that's a way to jump the queue. And so let's go ahead and kick it over to members only. So it's one of the benefits of being a member. If you want to learn more about being a member, we'll see if my thing works there. Apparently not today. Okay. But you can check out the join button down below to learn more. No commitment required. Just thanks for checking it out. We do not have any pre-submitted questions today. So for that, we will just go into the queue. Members, get your questions in, and we'll get it going. All right. First one up. What is the fastest way to upsert merge data into a Lakehouse table from on-prem source? I assume it involves first pulling the new data into a staging table, but what next? Ooh.
Like you need to test it. Like this is a place where there's a lot of implied things in the question that we would need to guess at. So when you say fastest, is it fastest end to end? Is it fastest just for the upsert / merge? Because you want to reduce the strain of the period of contention on the underlying data. Like there's just a lot to unpack there. So I would recommend testing it. And my gut feel is the whole pulling the new data into a staging table and then use either SQL if it's a warehouse or Spark SQL if it is a Lakehouse to do the upsert.
Yeah.
So land it in so the data is local and then do it in one set-based operation.
Yeah. I'd also, like, if you're not familiar with it too, like take a look at, there's a lot of documentation out there about like medallion architecture type approaches where this is a common pattern that happens. Like it's not a Fabric or a Lakehouse specific thing. This is something you would just encounter when working with warehousing. So definitely check out like content around that. And that may give you some ideas for approaches on how to handle it. So cool. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. All right. Good question. Let's go to Tom. So Tom says, last week I asked about Power Automate refresh not working. Turns out it actually works from the workspace. Sweet. But just not when using the report embedded. Any idea what would block the refresh trigger? So I need more info around how you're embedding. So are we doing secure embed? Are we doing Power BI embedded with like the app owns data approach where you're like proxying through some account? Like there's different things there. So if you are doing the Power BI embedded approach and not the secure embed, like does the other one work? Does it work with an actual like Azure AD account versus like a service principal? Like I need more details on like what you're doing there. It could be an actual limitation from a Power Automate perspective. I don't know. And I don't know if there's a way you can embed like from a Power Automate perspective, like taking the Power BI report out of the picture. Is there a way to test that aspect to see if that even works? So those are all things that I would look into, but without more data or without more info, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
right.
and the answer is kind of in the question. So it works in one situation, it doesn't work in the other. Well, that's the problem. Embedding is what's keeping it from working.
Yes,
it's a great starting point to figure out the details.
Yep. Cool.
And
right.
There's a great comment from David in chat as well, saying that the Power Apps visual is only supported for embedding it for your organization. Embed for customers is not supported.
Yeah.
Since that was specific to Power Automate rather than Power Apps, not sure if the same restrictions would apply, but it's great to know.
Yeah, and that's also why I called out the question of like, how are you embedding it? Are you doing that? Does secure embed work? Because that would use the regular your credential to go run it. And I'm assuming that would work and flow through. Like if you're using so even on the, if you're doing the embed for the app owns data, like if you're using a service principal for that, like that doesn't carry through to Power Automate, and Power Apps don't know anything about that because they're only going to go off of the Azure AD account. So be aware of that.
Yeah, and it looks like Tom has a political or organizational work ahead of him. He doesn't handle the embedding side. So every
he just knows it
problem
happens.
is at the core.
So Tom, what I'm hearing is it's not a Tom problem, it's someone else's problem. So, but you got to go figure it out.
It's a tomorrow Tom problem.
Yes. All right. We had a super chat from Akshay. Let's see what we got. Hi, gents. What would be your recommendation for various layers of the Medallion architecture? Do we keep it in the same or different Lakehouse? Thanks. Ooh, that's an it depends.
Yeah, so like it will definitely depend on your constraints and your goals, like who's doing what's the scope of the data, like what are the audiences for your various layers. My default starting point is that you should have a different lakehouse in a different workspace for each of the layers in your architecture or your Medallion architecture, because the people that you want to have access to bronze versus silver versus gold is very different, since workspaces are the top level security boundary or security domain inside of Fabric. This is a great way to have that initial starting point. There are certainly success strategies for doing it in the same workspace or maybe even in the same lakehouse. But if you're doing something at scale, which going with a Medallion architecture kind of implies that you've got different audiences and non-trivial processing and enrichment of the data taking place end to end, separating it out from the beginning gives you a little bit more setup and a little bit more to manage, but will probably produce the longer term results that you need.
Yep. Excellent. Good answer, Matthew. All right. Shane. I believe that Azure Data Factory will be housed in Fabric when P1 gets decommissioned. Any ideas if that means an FSKU is needed to use Azure Data Factory? Odd question, I know. I'm going to pull up Alex's response because it was pretty much what I was going to say. Let's see if this pulls it up. Where was it? Here we go. And Alex said that Fabric already houses Data Factory, which is a growing superset of capabilities that already exists in Azure Data Factory implementation. So is there something specific you can't do today with Fabric's version? So Data Factory includes pipelines and data flows Gen 2. And so pipelines would be the equivalent of Azure Data Factory on that front. And so what are you looking for? And I don't know if there was a follow-up on that.
So can we go back to Shane's original question?
Yeah. Hang on. There you go.
So I'm going to take a different approach. Okay, and Shane has just put something into chat that lets me know that I was going in the right direction. The past capabilities in Azure are not going away.
Yes.
So Azure Data Factory is still going to be around. So if your organization says we're not ready to adopt Fabric, we want to keep using the things that we're already using, we'll do those things. That's great. The general thing that we're doing is we're saying that our significant investments in new capabilities, new features, improvements, like the platform level improvements that will define the next generation of cloud data stuff, those are going to go into Fabric. So the feature velocity in Azure Data Factory is likely to slow, but we're going to keep investing in it. We're not deprecating it. It's not going anywhere. So if you've got a lot invested in Azure Data Factory, those investments will continue to pay off, and you do not need to move to Fabric, but there will be things that come in Fabric that won't be backported to Azure Data Factory or other Azure PaaS services, as the default approach. So some things will, where it makes sense.
Yeah.
Some things will be unique to Fabric.
When so typically when this conversation comes up with customers too, I equate it to like the Power BI dataset semantic model and Azure Analysis Services, right? So Azure Analysis Services is still there, but Power BI Premium was listed as that superset to what Matthew was talking about, and so we can think of Fabric in the same way. And so this also holds true for like Azure Data Explorer with Kusto, right? That's still going to exist, right? So. And then folks that are on Azure Synapse Analytics, like you can still do what you're doing there. There's been no announcement of deprecation there. So now, are you going to get new things? I don't know. And that may depend on the service, right?
Yeah, and please keep in mind that my memory is suspect at the best of times. If I remember correctly, the Azure Synapse team has said they're not investing in new features for the PaaS service.
Right.
They're going to continue to invest in security and issue resolution, but they're not adding new functionality to Azure Synapse. I believe the data integration team, it's the same team that owns both Azure Data Factory and Power Query and all the places that it lives, and Data Factory and Fabric. They've said that they are going to continue to invest in new feature development and evolution in Azure Data Factory as well as Fabric. So just be aware that investment in Azure PaaS, it's not going away. We're not deprecating any of these.
Yes. Yep. All right, David Strawn, thank you for becoming a member. That happened a bit ago, but wanted to call it out. And then I do like user 457's comment of, Microsoft is moving fast on the data solutions. This isn't a bad thing, but to keep up, we all need to look at Fabric benefits. And I remember when Power BI was just getting started and the rhythms were going fast there as well. I remember there was a focus group I sat in at PaaS Summit where one of the MVPs made the comment of, it's a fire hose of info, but don't stop, keep it coming. But yeah, it is hard to keep up. And I will say, even on the CAT team, we're on the product side and we see a lot of stuff and stuff that's coming in the future. And it's hard to keep up with the rapid pace of things. There's no one on the team that knows everything about Fabric. It's impossible. So,
yeah. And the best mental model for me, or the one that I keep falling back on, is thinking back 10 or 15 years ago where data professional in the Microsoft ecosystem meant SQL Server on-prem.
Yeah. And
Microsoft was investing more and more in SQL VMs for a managed infrastructure perspective, or SQL Azure, I think that we called it at the time, whatever Azure SQL database was called for the first couple iterations, where it was important for every data professional to understand what are the new tools, the new platforms, the new capabilities, so that they could then juxtapose that with their deep knowledge of the existing things that they were using day to day, so that they could understand for new workloads, what do I put where, what are the trade-offs, both from a functional and a cost or management perspective, how do I do the right thing for my organization and my users, where a lot of the times it would involve continuing to do what we were already doing because there's gravity and momentum there. But then either when there was the critical mass of compelling new functionality in the cloud, now as we're moving from PaaS to SaaS, same sort of thing with Azure to Fabric, but you don't need to move everything, but you do need to keep an eye on what's new in the new place so that you can make the right decision where it makes sense for you rather than where it makes sense in general.
Good and well said. I love it. All right. Continuing the journey on the questions. Let's go with Andres. What about good books or courses for Spark and Lakehouse?
I got nothing there.
Yeah. So the one resource I will point you to that I've seen a lot from a Spark perspective specifically, so it's not Fabric specific, although they're starting to put out Fabric content, is Advancing Analytics. So Simon Whiteley and his team, they're very very solid on the Spark front. In general, I know they've got some courses and a lot of just regular content, blogs and stuff like that. So good people there. That's the one I know. I'm not familiar with any others, so it's
Yeah. So let me come at this from the other side. So let me sneak up on this question.
all right.
So if you like, referring back on my old man story from a couple minutes ago, if you were learning Azure SQL back in the day, most of things like the T-SQL reference or like the Microsoft SQL architecture, like the guidance was around SQL Server. So you would actually read SQL Server docs to learn about Azure SQL. For data factory pipelines in Fabric, like most of the great blogs that help you learn and succeed with pipelines in Fabric, they're actually Azure Data Factory blogs that are out there. As you're learning Spark, don't limit yourself to only Spark in Fabric. Look for general or generic Apache Spark content. Look for PySpark. Look for Databricks. Look for those
in general.
alternative implementations.
And I do know like there's a big community out there that works on those. So different blogs and videos and not Fabric related stuff. So those are all good things to look at and then bring it back into the Fabric context, right? And figure out, okay, what's actually available inside of Microsoft Fabric versus what you can do in other platforms. Yep. And then, Alex called out the O'Reilly books as well. So there's a lot of stuff there for Spark in general. So absolutely. Good. All right. Leslie. So some team members are running into issues with field parameters and dynamic text in their report. Any guidance for teams using separate models and thin reports?
And Leslie elaborated on this by saying that they're not able to create new or to edit dynamic text, and field parameters are grayed out.
All right, I'll bring that up. New or edit dynamic text. So, and that's within the report itself, right? And so what I don't know is the report in the same workspace as the data set or semantic model? Like maybe there's an issue with like shared data sets going across workspaces. I'd have to try it and validate it, so I'm not completely sure. I don't know that the thin report in and of itself would be a problem. The other thing are you doing that, creating the report? I'm assuming you're creating that within Power BI Desktop that's live connected to the model. So in that case, the report wouldn't be in a workspace. It's same workspace. Okay. So are you creating the report? Are you seeing that in desktop, or are you seeing that in the cloud as you're creating things? Although I don't know that you can do that from a cloud perspective for creating a report. I'll have to. So Leslie, if you want, shoot me an email on that. We can maybe go noodle on that a little bit, so we can take a look. So I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to play with it. So it's interesting. I will also say though, the other thing I would check is look at the documentation for field parameters. There are limitations listed there, so there may be something there that's called out. I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Yeah, and Thomas said a couple minutes ago that field parameters are not supported in live connections.
Okay,
so that may be at the root of the problem.
There you go.
Yeah.
So let's look. I'm just gonna go real quick. Limitations. Yeah, there it is. It's right in the limitations for the doc. It says you can't create Power BI field parameters with live connections. So, come on. So right there, you can't create parameters in live connected data source without a local model. So, yep. Thank you for that. All right. There's your answer. Yay. All right, David. So I need to do a quick 10 to 15 minute demo of Fabric soon. Any examples out there I can use that can wow people and show the scope of the platform?
I want to zig on this one.
Yeah.
Don't look for a sample because nobody cares. If you actually want to wow this audience, if you want them to really understand the advantage that they get, like the efficiencies, the integrated experience, like that whole end-to-end, holy crap, like that true 5 minutes to wow that you can get, use their data. Like this is like a true best practice for these early excitement demos where you need to get like funding, executive buy-in, or what have you. Like solve a problem that they will understand. Work with data that actually is relevant to the audience that you're working with. And very often, if you can get the, like you can get them thinking, it's like, this is a thing that's hard. We spent months on doing this, like the last time that we built a solution using other tools. And if you can show them that quick end-to-end, it doesn't need to be fully feature complete or polished, but get the data into OneLake, do things in a notebook in OneLake, do things in SQL in OneLake, build a semantic model on top of it, or like use Direct Lake, build a semantic model, build a report, do the visualization, maybe like depending on the scenario, tie it through with a data activator to show the alerting and like the end-to-end actions that you just don't get anywhere else. And by having this as part of this one coherent story, where you're starting off with the hook of a problem that they understand and can relate to, like it's not like, oh, here's Contoso or AdventureWorks. Like nobody cares about that, but meet them where they are, and they're going to be eating out of your hand.
Yeah. So another pro tip there as well is, because you're like, oh, I've only got 10 to 15 minutes. How do I do all of that in 10 to 15 minutes? Well, don't show all the clicks, right? So you can do that. Like we Patrick and I do that all the time. We say like a cooking show, like I've already pre-prepared this part. So and you just kind of flow through it like a story. So you don't have to show all the details there. That's not your goal. Your goal is to sell them on what you're trying to show. So, and then Tom said that he had a similar thing, and he showed the sphere in Vegas and said Fabric is the data as the sphere is to entertainment, and they bought it. All right. So
I don't think
your
Fabric
audience
is that big though. Also, I'll stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, if you ever end up with Fabric reports on the sphere, like I want to see that. I want to see your reports on this gigantic, world's biggest display.
Yes. All right, David. I currently have 50 users on Premium per user. I'm thinking about moving to Fabric. What F-SKU should I move to? Ooh, that's gonna be an it depends right off the bat. This goes back to things like Matthew already talked about before, and we've talked about it over time as well. Is like there's a lot of variables that go in there. So you've got to test your data, right? You've got to, like, I don't know what data you have. I don't know what the concurrent, you have 50 users, but I don't know what the concurrency is on that. I don't know like what actions you need to take, what workloads do you need to use as part of your solution? How many solutions do you have there? Like what are your security requirements? What does the separation of data look like? There's a lot of things that go into that. The beautiful thing about Fabric is you can start with an F2 capacity and then do that, test it, scale it up, scale it down, like figure out what it is you need, and then you'll know.
Yeah, the thing that I'd like to add to that is the number of PPU users you have. This is not a variable in this equation. Like it's completely unrelated, except for when you get down to compare the different costs involved. For both PPU and Pro in Power BI, this is basically a way for you to say it's all you can eat within these constraints for the fixed per user price. When you get into capacity, it's different variables. So Adam was spot on, but it's more than, or it's a different way of looking at the problem than PPU or Pro would have you.
Yeah. So the other Adam actually had a good maybe starting basis as well. Said like, look, 50 PPU equals an F8. So in cost, from just purely from a cost perspective. So maybe start there. However, I will add though that even if you get a Fabric capacity to create Power BI reports, the authors of those reports still require at least a Pro license. So be aware of that from a cost perspective. So, but still, I would actually just start with an F2. And like even doing your development, because you're going to have to do development and even like proving out certain things. So start with the F2. You can do a lot of that with just the F2. And then as your solution is well formed, or you've got existing solutions, like test it out and, then see where it is from a capacity metrics perspective. And then if you need to scale up. So, all right, we are over time. Yes, the other Adam, Matthew.
And it's really funny because it's Adam B.
Yes.
So this implies that you are Adam,
I'm Adam
A. And somewhere out there.
Oh, that's funny. Where's Adam C when you need it? All right. We're at time. Matthew, thank you so much for being here. Any closing words of wisdom?
So I want to, I don't know if this is wisdom or not, but I want to riff on Scott Sewell's comment. So Scott highlighted my ongoing blog and YouTube series where for this calendar year, I'm sharing weekly videos on what I believe will make you successful if you want to be a PM at Microsoft, or like, honestly, if you are in a role that involves people and technology, which you are. I'm trying to share the things that if I had known 15 or 20 years ago, like I'd probably be a VP of something by now. But realistically, these are lessons that I've learned through my own experience and my own mistakes that I'm trying to share so that people who are PMs at Microsoft today or want to be PMs at Microsoft tomorrow, or as like hundreds of people have told me, like these are valuable for others too. Check it out. Lots of advice that are out there. New videos every Monday.
Love it. Yes. All right. Go watch them. And now that the stream's over, you have a lot of time to go do that. All right. Thank you again, Matthew. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this Saturday. We will see you next week. Josh Kaplan will be on the stream next week. So bring all your OneLake and type things related to that. He's also knowledgeable about other things as well. So come back and looking forward to seeing you next Saturday. All right. See you, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a great
everybody.
weekend.
Take care.